Good evening, everybody. Hi, Chris.
Good evening, Velenie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How was your day?
Well, today from my chair, I've been to the Solomon Islands and Tonga. So
Sorry,
I've just
come
been
again?
sitting here. Oh, can you hear me okay? So today I've been to the Solomon Islands and Tonga.
Wow.
But I haven't gone anywhere. I've been doing it all from my desk.
Nice. It's good how
But the interesting thing about those trips is that we're talking about exactly the same issues that we're talking about here with young entrepreneurs. What fascinates me is that these topics are being talked about all over the Pacific. And in lots of ways, COVID is making people think, trying to find new things to think about. So it's cool. So I've had a good day so far.
Great. It's great where you're in Vanuatu, but you can visit Solomons and Tonga at the same time.
I know. I'm very cheap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All
What about
right.
you? Have you
Welcome,
had a good
everyone.
day?
Yes, I've had it's quite a busy day today. There's a long queue at the bank. Was going to go to the bank today, but there was a long queue at the bank.
Right.
Took the whole morning.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So this is the fifth session now, right? We're on our fifth session now.
4, because we missed one. Is it 4 or 5?
5.
Maybe 5. 5.
We're on
Okay.
our fifth session.
All right, good.
All right.
Oh, yes, of course we are. Yes.
Yes. So good afternoon, everybody. And if you're listening, thank you for joining us again on another live session through Espresso Page. And this is Ask the Coach. And if you don't know what Ask the Coach is, it's a section in the Espresso magazine that features communication between a business person and a coach. So it's exactly what we are doing today. We'll be going through another topic today to discuss. And if you are following us, if you have not followed Espresso Page, we will be coming out live every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:00 in the afternoon. And please feel free to join us every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So let me just summarize on what we talked about in the last session. We went through, so we started off with mindset, how to have a positive mindset in any situation, and then we went on to maintaining a positive mindset, and then we talked about emotions, emotional intelligence, empathy. And last week we talked about identifying some of the different emotions and how it affects us in our daily lives, in our businesses, in all the things that we do. It involves emotions, and we touched on a lot of important real life experiences on what's happening, and it has to do with us managing our emotions and the relationships that we have and how we can manage that emotion with the relationship. So we talked about businesses, emotion, the relationship that we have when we're running a business. We talked about our personal, like parents and the people that we connect with, we have relationships with, and how we can manage our emotions through the different places that we're in. Okay, so today I will give it to Chris. I'll give this opportunity to Chris to introduce our session today, our topic for today, and then kick off, and then we will contribute as we go. So, Chris, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Velenie. And just encourage, if you're watching and you've got a comment or question, please let us have it, because we can deal with those as we're talking. Just before I get into the topic, which is around negotiating, I just want to remind a little bit about the type of coaching that we're doing. So the type of coaching that we're doing through this program is what we call soft skills, SOFT, soft. The opposite to soft skills are hard skills. So hard skill coaching is where someone's coaching you in technical skills. So if you were learning from a builder, they might be coaching you in the technical skills of laying bricks. Or if you were playing netball, the technical skills of using the ball. They're hard skills. They're the things you need to do to be able to do your activity. So all of you who are watching who run businesses have to have a set of hard skills. And that depends entirely on your business. If you're baking cakes, you've got to have hard skills of baking. If you're into technology, you've got to understand how computers work and so on. So those hard skills obviously vary from business to business. The type of coaching we're focusing on here is what we call soft skills. Now, those soft skills don't vary. They relate to all people in all businesses. And there, I think I've described them before as our behavioral skills, our attitudes. They're the things that will go on anyway, regardless of the type of business you're running. Doesn't matter whether you're flying a plane or driving a car or baking bread. The soft skills, and that will be things like communication, like empathy that we talked about last time, problem solving, creative thinking. These skills belong to all of us in business. And this is the type of coaching we do. And a lot of these skills are under a little bit of threat at the moment, because when we feel a little bit anxious, they're quite difficult sometimes to keep going. Velenie also coaches in a lot of hard skills. She will coach around financial skills. So she's mixing the two, which is a really good mix. Mine tends to be all focused around soft skills. So I just wanted to say that at the beginning, because there is a difference. And sometimes people wonder, well, what sort of coaching do you do? You know, what are you actually going to teach me? Now, I'm not going to teach anyone anything, but what I will do is help people explore these issues. The topic today then is around, we're continuing the idea that we talked about last time of business being full of emotions. Business is full of emotional activity, whether it be about working with your staff or your customers or whatever. And today, the particular activity we want to focus on is negotiating. Negotiation, doing deals. In a minute, when I shut up, Velenie will talk particularly about a couple of common ones that you will do. People will be used to negotiating around, say, with a landlord or with the bank. When you recruit staff, you negotiate, don't you? Yes, you go through a recruitment process. Very often, when you're trying to get a new customer, you might be negotiating with them the rate that you're going to charge them. If a customer hasn't paid the bill, you may have to negotiate some deals with them, some terms to get them to start to pay you back. These are all negotiations of different types. You negotiate with your kids sometimes, don't you? You know, your kid wants to go out in the evening. You might want them to do some work before they go out. It's negotiation. Now, to be able to do this, we've got to be right on top of our emotional game. emotional intelligence that we spent quite a lot of time about in the last couple of sessions, needs to be at the forefront. If we're not very good with our emotions, we're going to find it quite hard to negotiate with others. And before I say a little bit about one type of negotiating, and I'll probably talk a little bit about negotiating with customers, but before I do that, I want to talk about a soft skill that goes with negotiating. I can't see you, Velenie, but I'm presuming everything is okay, so I'll just keep on talking. One of the soft skills that go alongside negotiating is everything okay? All right. Is a word called assertiveness. Maybe one day we're about to get these words written up on the screen. Assertive behavior, ASSERTIVE. And you probably heard people talk about someone as being assertive. And it's really important around negotiating. I just want to explain a little bit about what it means. Somebody who is assertive is somebody who will be confident enough to say what they feel. Remember last time we talked a lot about emotions being about feelings. Assertive people will express themselves. Well done. They will tell you what they're feeling. Another word beginning with A is aggressive. Aggressive people will also tell you what they are feeling in no uncertain terms, yeah? Aggressive people will often shout at you. They'll wag their finger at you. They will tell you exactly what they're feeling. A third group of people would be what I would describe as passive people. Passive people will still have feelings, but they won't tell you what they're feeling. They'll keep them to themselves. They won't express themselves. So assertive people will tell you what they feel. Aggressive people will tell you what they feel. Passive people won't. The difference between assertive and aggressive is that aggressive people are not interested in what you feel. They're only interested in telling you what they feel. And they will often do it very loud and sometimes very angrily, but they're not at all interested in listening to you. Assertive behavior has two main parts to it. The first part is your ability to express yourself. And of course, that's confidence, yeah? That's the feelings from within, that you feel comfortable to say what you feel. The second part of assertive behavior is that you will allow the other person to express themselves. So assertive people say what they feel and then encourage you to say what you feel. Does that make sense, Velenie?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yes.
Really important, yeah? See, aggressive people are not interested in what you feel. All they want to do is tell you what they feel. And you've probably met plenty. Huh? Assertive people are interested in what you feel. But they also want to make sure that you know what they feel. So it becomes a two-way conversation. Much, much more satisfying, yeah? I mean, I'm sure we've all been on the receiving end of someone who's aggressive. It's not very pleasant, is it?
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't encourage us to listen.
Yeah.
Passive people. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Chris, for interrupting. Part of our role as coaches is also to be assertive. Eh? Yes. So
Absolutely.
Carry on.
I mean, if we don't listen as coaches, we don't know what people are saying and thinking, yeah? So if as a coach, I spent all my time telling you what to do, then I'm getting pretty close to being aggressive. Yeah. Because I might tell you what to do, but I'm not actually listening to what you want to do. So assertive behavior is something to practice. It might be that we've not been brought up in that way. Yeah. It might be that it's been unfortunate and we've been brought up to be very passive and very quiet. A lot of people in the Pacific are. Or we have become very aggressive. Aggression doesn't, I mean, obviously the extreme of aggression is physical aggression. But before that, there's a lot of verbal aggression. Yeah. And you listen to people, you might hear them. They might be campaigning in politics or wherever. And you hear them and they're shouting at the crowd. They're not communicating, they're shouting. No one's really listening. So the reason I'm taking a bit of time for this is that I think to be very successful entrepreneurs, we have to develop ourselves as assertive individuals. That means that we have to be confident enough to be able to express ourselves and say what we think. And at the same time, we have to be able to listen.
Exactly.
Because if we listen, we'll understand where the other person's coming from.
Chris, I think, sorry for interrupting.
That's right, carry on.
I think we're in a time now that when we're going through this pandemic, like it puts us in a very it gets us out of our comfort zones, right? So as we talk about these soft skills, it's something that it's about time. It's very timely to talk about it, because if we keep on doing the things that we're comfortable with, we will not be able to get through. We will find it very hard to get through the crisis that we're going through. Yeah, because everything is
Absolutely.
has put us on the spot where we have to learn these soft skills that will enhance us, right? So it's very
Absolutely.
important that we're talking about these topics now, because I feel that it's the right time that we are going through this situation. So it puts us in a spot where we have to make a decision to learn these soft skills and practice it, and not just listen to it, right? Not just learning about it, but putting it into practice.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Carry on.
All right. No, it's all right. I'm making a note of the words. I mean, it's like anything, yeah? We learn something new. If we've never ridden a bike before, the only way we get used to riding a bike is to practice. And it's the same thing. And we can practice these soft skills. That might sound a little bit strange. Yeah. And maybe you start in private. Maybe you stand in front of a mirror at home and just talk to yourself. Make sure there's no one listening. But we do have to practice. Yeah? I mean, my own view is that these things should be taught to kids in school, quite honestly. I think they should be part of education. They should be part of young people learning. In some families, people will get this from parents, but not everybody will. Because not necessarily every parent is assertive either. The other thing, Velenie, you mentioned is this is about getting out of our comfort zone. And we talked before, haven't we? The role of the comfort zone in our lives is very important. It's where we feel safe and comfortable. But if we stay there, we're stuck. Yeah, it's like sitting in our favorite chair. If we never move, we're going to go nowhere. We're not going to explore anything else. Now, if you're very passive in your behavior, you're going to find that very, very difficult. And I think as part of COVID, a lot of fear comes in. And a lot of passive people get quite frightened. If you're aggressive in your behavior, interestingly, you're still going to be frightened. But the way you deal with it is you start to shout at other people. what we will be saying as coaches is to be able to get out of your comfort zone from time to time. In other words, put yourself in a different situation. You've got to be assertive. You've
Right.
got to have the confidence to say what you think and the confidence to listen to somebody else. And when we start to think about this in terms of negotiation, it becomes really important. I mean, shall I just mention one area of negotiation and then you can
Yes.
pick up? Yeah.
Yes. Let's go to negotiation.
I mean, a common area of negotiating is obviously dealing with customers. Yeah. So if you're, let's say, I don't know, let's say you are, I think I mentioned this example the other day. If you're running a tourism operation and you're behind the reception and customers arrive and their plane is late, so they're angry and the kids are noisy. And you've got to try and negotiate with them. Yeah, you've got to get them to fill the forms in. Yeah, you've got to get them to register. Maybe you've got to explain to them about food and what the special COVID arrangements are, and they don't really want to hear you because they're feeling a little bit angry. Yeah. Now, if you are passive, you're not going to have that conversation, are you? Yeah, if you're passive, you'll probably look down on the floor and you might even run away and go and find your boss because you won't have the confidence to deal with those customers and negotiate with them. If you're aggressive, you might well upset them because you might well start to get angry because they're angry. You start to get angry. Does this make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
As assertive behavior means that you have to express yourself firmly, but you also want to hear what they have to say so you can understand. You have empathy with them that their plane was late. You have empathy with them that their kids are tired and they're crying and they're running around. You can empathize with them. But at the same time, you still have your job to do. You still have to do the negotiating with them to get them to fill the forms in and register legally and show you their passport and all those things. So, and that's a form of negotiating, yeah? If you were dealing with a customer who hasn't paid a bill, you may have to go and see them. If you're passive, you're probably not going to do anything. But then you will suffer because they haven't paid. If you're aggressive, you might well be quite unpleasant to them. You might even put an unpleasant comment on Facebook, and you still probably won't get paid. If you're assertive, you're going to have to decide, okay, I have to go and talk to these people. I've got to go and have a conversation. But as an assertive person, you will realize that you will also listen to them. So I've got some tips on being more assertive, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Velenie, over to you.
Thank you, Chris. So it's a very important topic to discuss because, excuse me, a lot of us we don't really we are being passive in most situations, in most cases. We don't exercise ourselves to be assertive. And like I said, this situation has put us in a spot where we have to come out and start learning these skills. Because if we don't, we're going to be assuming. Let's say, for example, if you are renting a room, an apartment, and if you are not, coming out, being assertive about your situation and expecting that your landlord knows what you're going through, that's not going to work. Because when we're faced up in a crisis like this, it's either you come forward to put things on the table and negotiate, or you might as well get kicked out of the house that you're renting or something, right? So it puts us in a situation where we really have to learn these things. So I have a couple of tips, about three tips for people that are renting and they feel that they have, we're in a crisis where we're all struggling, and there might be not be enough to pay your rent, but that's when negotiation comes in. We have to learn to make good negotiations. And when we talk about negotiations, we also have to remember, we talked about our emotions. We have to be prepared on what we're going to be talking, how we are going to negotiate with our landlords, or how we are going to negotiate with the next person that we're negotiating with. So I have 3 tips here to give. Is that okay, Chris?
Yes, go on.
Yes. Okay. So the first tip that I have here is make your research. Do your own research. If you're in an area that you have other tenants on the other, the same area that you're in, and if they have some packages that their tenant is giving them, make sure you have your research in place. Have concrete research in place before you go and talk to your landlord. Because if you don't have anything in front of you to go and talk to your landlord, you might as well just not go, because we won't be presenting anything to the landlord to how do I say it, to negotiate with them. They won't have anything to yeah. You have to have some figures. You have to have some numbers to show your landlord that this is what everyone is doing, and due to the crisis and everything. And if you can get information from all the places that you can get, put all the information together and then go present it to your landlord, right? So that's the first one.
Yeah.
Research all around you the best deals, and use the figures, or use situation report or something to raise it to your landlord. That's the first one, research. The next one is to have, when you negotiate, you have a concrete figure. Let's say for example, you are negotiating to have your rent moved down to, let's say if it was 50,000 and you want to move it down to 20,000. Don't say I want it to be 20 to 25. No, have a concrete figure, so that when you say it, be firm about it. Because if you give a range, the landlord will always go for the highest range, right? If it's 20 to 25,
Absolutely.
he will go for the highest range. So have your figure concrete before you present it to your landlord. And then another thing is always negotiate a win-win situation. In case of renting, you might want to negotiate that, since we're all staying from home, we're not working anymore, it's just timely shift working. You might negotiate that, I can do the cleaning and cleaning the area, and if your landlord does that for you, you can do that and then pay less to the landlord or something like that. So so the first one is have your research ready to present to your landlord. Use concrete figure, and then the last one is to negotiate a win-win condition. So
Fantastic.
that's it for the rent. We'll go further to the banking negotiation. But yes, that's it for the rent negotiation. And I believe a lot of people are now faced up with rent. It's a real life situation now that
Yeah.
some people might not have a roof over their head in the next. We don't know. We've seen. Did you see that news from the municipal? What's that? The Lord Mayor, for
No.
everyone not working to go back home, and it's a sad situation because most it's a real life situation
Right.
that's happening now. So it's very crucial that our negotiation skills has to be stepped up.
Absolutely. I agree totally. Yeah. You're going to go on and talk about negotiating at the bank, or do you want me to
Yes,
say something?
I can
Go
go
on.
on if that's
Yes,
okay with you.
of
All
course it
right.
is.
So banking, it's just it's like what we went through with the renting tip, tip with the rent. One more Yeah, you have to have your figures. You have to have your figures if you want to go. If you have a bank loan, let's say you have a business and you have a loan with the bank, and you want to go and negotiate to have just a negotiation with the bank on how your repayment will be. You have to have a clear understanding of your figures, your business figures, right? So that's something that I always emphasize because most businesses, small businesses, don't have that. And it's very important that when you are going to the bank to make a negotiation, you have to be very clear on your figures. You can't go into the bank without these, because if they ask you in the bank and you don't know, there will be no way of them giving you a deal, right? So you have to have your figures in place. If you don't have your figures in place, get somebody to help you to get that in order for you to make a good negotiation with your bank. That's the first one. The second one is always good to make the first offer, right? It's good to make the first offer, and then if the bank, no, I'll put it down like that, and then it ends up being in your favor. But if you let the bank do the first offer of giving you a figure, it's gonna end up in a way that it will benefit them more, right? So that's tip number 2.
Great. I'm learning something.
So the third one is actually there's 4. The third one is don't leave room for price range like the rent. When you have a figure set, be firm with the figure, and don't leave a range so that the bank will always go for the highest amount. That's the third one. The fourth one is a win-win again. So the win-win is that for you, it's affordable for you to pay, and it also, because the bank doesn't want you to stop paying everything at once, right? So you can negotiate with the bank so that the bank will still see the payment coming through, and it's in favor of you doing the payment, right? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Yes, lots of
Yes.
sense. Very good.
So it's a
Yeah,
win-win thing. If
absolutely.
you if we don't establish that, we might end up you not paying, and it's a loss for the bank, or it might end up the bank overcharging you and it makes it a loss for you, and probably a not win at all for him because he will not be paying at all, right? So I guess, yes, that's the 4 tips I can give for the banking negotiation.
Fantastic. That's great. And these are really important, aren't they? And particularly in today's climate, yeah?
Yes.
Can I pick up? I mean, both of your examples, you use the term win-win. And I think this is really important, yeah? There's only one way you can get win-win, and that's through being assertive. If you're a very quiet, passive person, you're going to have lose-win. You're going to lose, somebody else will win. If you're an aggressive
Definitely.
person, it's win-lose. And you don't really win anyway you think you might. Now, I think there's some interesting challenges here, aren't there? I mean, you come from Vanuatu, Velenie. I don't. But since I've been working in the Pacific, I hear a lot of people talk about the culture. And a lot of people talk about people being quiet sometimes and very quiet and very Now, being quiet doesn't mean you're not assertive. There are a lot of very assertive people who are not noisy. They are very quiet, but when they speak with firmness. Does that make sense? Yeah, with authority.
Yes.
So assertive behavior isn't about being noisy, but it is about being in control of your emotions. So that might be a challenge to some people watching us. And as coaches, we're more than happy to help people. We can't tell people to become assertive, but we can guide you. And as Velenie said earlier on, it's like any habit. You get better at a habit by practice. Quite honestly. Yeah, you may not have been brought up in an assertive way, but that doesn't mean that you can't develop assertive behavior. And to be able to be successful in the negotiations that we've been describing, it's essential. Back to you, Velenie.
Thank you, Chris. So you mentioned about being quiet. That might also be a strength, right? Because
Yes,
when you're in a negotiating room, and you can feel, if I'm on the other side of the table and we're negotiating, and I the person on the other side of the table is being quiet, I know that this person, well, yeah, it's a good thing too, right? I know that that
absolutely.
person has he knows what he's doing. He's presented. If you've presented all you have and you've been quiet in the negotiation, that means you've done all that you have and you've given it there. And the quietness may be kind of, no, we're talking about emotions, eh? And when someone on the other side of the table negotiates and then gets to a point where he's quiet, it's quite uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. And
it's all about the emotional intelligence, knowing what the other person is feeling
absolutely.
and how you can
And it's
use that
about,
to negotiate. Huh?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And for me, it's about understanding before you go into the negotiation what it is you want to achieve. And that's what you were saying, yeah? And any negotiation, you need to prepare.
Right.
You know, if you're going to talk to a customer, get yourself ready for it.
Yeah.
Bellini talked about, you talked about the need to get the figures. If you're going to go and try and negotiate a loan, go around the different banks and see who's offering what. Do
Exactly.
some work beforehand, yeah? Get your prep, because that will make you feel more confident. The simple act of preparation will give you information. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to feel less of an inferior. You're going to feel more confident. And the other thing, Bellini, as you said, which I think is really important, is go into negotiation with a goal in your mind. Yeah. What
Right.
you want to get out of it.
That's
If you're
very
going to go
important.
and it is absolutely. If you're going to go and try and get a new customer, have a very clear picture in your mind. Okay, I want this customer and I want to sign them up, and I know how much I want them to spend with me. Have it in your mind. You may not speak it, but it's going to drive you on.
Definitely.
And then I think the third point you made just now, which is really important, is about silence. Yeah. Don't do all the talking. Aggressive people will do no listening. They'll do all the talking. Passive people will probably not do any talking. you've got to do a mixture.
Right.
But I think we are, and maybe we'll talk more about this in other sessions. I think what we have to learn is how to listen.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's something we all do. We think we do all the time. But how often do we really listen to our loved ones, to our kids, to our friends? Really listen. No, they're talking away and you're nodding and saying yes, but you're doing something else. Is that true? Yeah.
Yes. Very
We're not
true.
really
And
listening at all. Sorry.
it's one of the things. It's one of the things that we as coaches should have to, right? If we're coaching somebody, we have to be very good in listening.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to be a very good coach if I've got my mobile phone sitting on my desk and I keep looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only going to be a good coach if I pay full attention. And if you want to go and negotiate, you've got to pay attention to the person you are negotiating with. Listen to them.
Right.
Because if you do that, it encourages them to listen to you.
Correct. Chris, I think we're talking about all this negotiation in terms of, the skills that the tips that we just gave are skills that, the people who are listening can learn. And there's also one thing of presenting ourselves, right? When we go to negotiation, the way we dress and the way we talk, that's also something that will help us, move this negotiation forward.
Absolutely.
And like you said, being passive is like, going and looking down and being focused, really focused on
Absolutely.
what you're what you want, right?
And you'll do that if you've got a clear picture in your head of what you want to achieve.
Exactly, the goal.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So none of this specific time, yeah? None of this stuff about, Vanuatu time. If you know that it's raining and the bus is going to take a long time, for goodness sake, go out early. Yeah? Don't go into a negotiation where you're rushing in, sweating and soaking wet. That's not going to do you any good. And it's not going to make the other person feel that you're serious.
True.
There you go.
Thank you, Chris. That's a very interesting topic. And it's, I hope the people that are watching are learning from what we are talking about. And I hope we get comments and feedbacks from this conversation.
That would be great if we did.
Yes, if you're watching, please feel free to put your comments down below. Or there's if you see in your screen, there's a contact. You can always send an email to hello@next.com.vu, and we also have our contacts where you can contact us as well. So Chris's contact is already scrolling on the screen. If you have time, please grab a pen and paper or grab this contact, put it in your phone, and you can call him anytime. Yes. So yes, that's it. And I have my contact as well running at the bottom of the screen. You can get my contact from there as well. Chris, I think this conversation is very interesting, and it'd be great if any of the people that are listening, do you want to say anything else?
Just stay safe. We don't know what the weekend will bring. Look after yourself.
All right.
But do it would be great if we can get into some conversations. And I think what we're going to try and do next week and in the future is have a few guests on, people who are running businesses. And, if you're interested in doing that, let us know.
Sure.
Let us know, and you can come in and we can. You think so? Yeah, and we can come and talk to you.
Yes, definitely.
I mean,
Okay,
next week we're
everyone.
going to talk. Sorry.
Go on.
So next week we're going to talk about change. And again, you see, the link of all this is emotions. And if nothing else at the moment in life, there's a lot of change going on.
Exactly.
And we're going to be talking about the challenge of managing that and how we deal with that. But
That's another.
Before then, you've got the weekend. Enjoy it.
Yes. And be prepared for another uncomfortable topic. Change is uncomfortable. So, yes. So,
but we have to
thank
talk
you,
about
everyone. Yes, exactly. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And this is the end of our session today. I'm just putting up on the screen. There's a sports mag program every Wednesday, and it happens on this page as well, Espresso Facebook page, and it happens every 4 p.m. on Wednesday. It's a program that's a live session with Christopher Malili and Amel. So if you're a sports fan, if you love sports, please follow Espresso page, and you can join the live session every Wednesday at 4 p.m. There'll be more programs coming up through this page, so please follow the page to see all the programs that will be coming in the near future. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll both see you all
on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Thank you, Chris. It's nice talking to you today.
Thank you, Velenie. And you take care.
Likewise.
Get home before the curfew. Bye.
Yes, I will. Bye.
Bye.